What's happening? Thanks for joining me on this Monday morning, a new era of this podcast. Patriots only, Patriots all the time, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 11 a.m. right here on YouTube. You can also check us out the next few weeks on Facebook and, of course, Twitter. Happy to be here after a week off from the podcast. Hopefully, all of you enjoyed your 4th of July. Let's start with something that I find very interesting. A lot of people have been talking about the spending of the New England Patriots and how Robert Kraft has not spent a lot of money. He has not spent enough money. And I understand because the numbers tell you that over the last, 15, 20 years, he has not been at the top of the list as far as spending money in the NFL. That cannot be debated. Now, whether or not you feel like it is Robert Kraft's fault that the spending has not been there, or if you believe that it's Bill Belichick and how he decided to run the program, that changes from person to person. I fall a little bit more on the Bill Belichick side and believe Bill Belichick's philosophy as far as keeping money for certain positions, not overpaying on offense, not necessarily loving the quarterback position, those kinds of things. I look at and say that kept the spending down, but that's neither here nor there because I want to pay attention to something else. As you start to join this podcast, don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Trying to get to 3,500 subscriptions, rate and review as well if you're on Spotify, Apple Pods, listening on demand. Let's talk spending, but let's get into something that a lot of people have overlooked when we talk about spending, and that is how the money has been spent. I find this fascinating. Mike Reese over the weekend, ESPN, wrote that of the approximately $233 million the Patriots have spent in base value of free agent contracts, approximately $138 million of that has been to offensive players. Now, my general math skills tell me 59.2% of the base value of the free agent contracts have been put towards offense. So you're looking at 59-41. Reese also adds that does not include extensions for running back Ramondre Stevenson, $17 million guaranteed. David Andrews, who got $8 million guaranteed. They were already under contract for 2024. Now, when you look at those numbers, you ask yourself why. Why have the Patriots put more money towards the offense than they've put towards the defense? And most of that money, of course, has gone to Mike Onwenu, if we're being honest here. The reason why this is happening is because the Patriots are balancing the imbalance from Bill Belichick. Belichick did not respect the offense enough. Belichick did not invest money into the offense nearly enough. And I have the numbers, I have the facts to prove that to you. If you look at Over the Cap, great website that works at all the numbers and all that stuff, they tell you how much money has been spent, how much guaranteed money, how much money spent in the first year, et cetera, et cetera. When you look at Over the Cap, the Patriots last year in 2023, they were 19th among the 32 NFL teams. They were 19th in offensive spending in 2023. The Patriots were 23rd or set to be 23rd in offensive spending this year. So last year they were 19th in offensive spending. This year they're going to be 23rd unless something changes over the next couple of months. Warren Sharp posted this on Twitter in late March. The Patriots are 27th in cap allocated money towards the offense in 2024. So you're looking at spending versus cap allocation. When you look at the money that is allocated from the cap to the offense, as of late March, the Patriots were 27th in the league. Bottom 5 or 6 team in the NFL when it comes to putting money towards your offense with the cap. If you're wondering, the Patriots, if you look back in late March 22nd to be exact, the Patriots were set to spend $89.2 million of the cap on offense. $89.2 million. 27th in the league. Do you know who number 1 was? Number 1, the Cleveland Browns. I want you to think about how much money the Cleveland Browns had allocated towards the cap offensively. The Patriots were at $89.2 million. What if I told you the Browns had $188.8 million allocated to its cap on the offensive side of the football. That is crazy. That is a crazy number. The Patriots, as a matter of fact, one of only 7 teams allocating less than $100 million to its offense. So what we've seen here over the past few years is an imbalance. An imbalance when we look at money being spent towards offense versus defense. An imbalance when we look at allocating certain money to the salary cap, offense versus defense. Put plainly, Bill Belichick was putting more money into the defense than he was putting into the offense over his last couple of years. Now, you can go back to 2021, and yes, he paid Hunter Henry, he paid Jonnu Smith, he paid Nelson Aguilar. He also paid Matthew Judon. And from that point moving forward, he put good money into the defense, not so much into the offense, which is kind of crazy for a couple of reasons. But before I get to those couple of reasons, I want to talk about 2024 because people might say, Nick, Bill Belichick's no longer here, and you just told me the Patriots are 23rd in offensive spending this year versus 19th last year. There's a reason for that. And the reason for that is the Patriots went heavy into the draft thinking offense. 6 of their 7 draft picks were offensive players. So you have all of those offensive players. You have those 6 offensive players taking up roster spots on rookie contracts in the first year of their rookie contracts, including your number 3 overall pick, your future franchise quarterback, Drake May. So that's 6 roster spots right there that you take up at minimal money compared to some other teams, right? So that's one reason. Also, don't forget, Ramondre Stevenson, David Andrews, both of those guys, right? Stevenson and Andrews, they just got their deals. So the money, the offensive spending in 24, those numbers are impacted because Stevenson and Andrews are already under contract for this year. So it doesn't have any correlation to the numbers this year. Those numbers are the numbers. They're on the cap. What's done is done. Now, I want to talk about 2023 in context, but before I get to that, I want to go to my guy, JB Brown, who jumps in with a super chat. Thank you, JB. $5 super chat. I don't know why the super chat is so huge today. Why is that super chat gigantic? I don't know if that's some kind of snafu here for the StreamYard or whatever's going on, but JB Brown super chat is taking over half of my face. Hey, from vacation in Maine. Hopefully you're enjoying Maine, JB. So Judon becoming enough of an issue to shop him. Can't see him playing for $6.5 million. And do they really extend him at 32 years old? JB, it's interesting you bring that up. I will say this about Judon, and I talked about this on the Sports Hub Saturday. I do think if you're not going to extend Matthew Judon in the next month or so, it's time to move on. You either have to poop or get off the pot with Matthew Judon. Judon, as JB pointed out, he's going to be 32 in August. He's coming up off of a biceps tear, which is, not great. So he's coming off of the biceps. He's going to be 32 in August. He's in the last year of his contract. He wants to get paid. He knows, I'm sure Matthew Judon knows, this is likely the last big swing contract-wise that he's going to get, right? He's going to take that big swing for one last time. He's not going to get a big fat-ass contract when he's 33, 34, 35 years old. So for him, for his earning purposes, this is it. So he's looking, I would imagine, for a big payday, relatively speaking. And the Patriots, they're looking at this. They're saying, we love you as a player. You've been highly productive. We love you in the locker room. You've been a great leader, but you're going to be 32 in just over a month. You're coming off of a major injury and surgery. We're not ready to give you that payday. We're not ready to back up the Brinks truck for you just yet. So if there is a fracture here, if there's an impasse between Judon and the Patriots, I do think they should absolutely entertain shopping him. I think you look at Judon and you say, what is this team about? What is this organization about? I know that the Patriots, I know that Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo, they both want to win. They both want to get off to a great start, right? Their first year in the respective positions. I understand that they want to win as much as they possibly can. this year because you start to look at their reputation right off the bat from the jump, right? So I understand that. However, this season, we've talked about this in prior podcasts. The Patriots, they're not necessarily about 2024. If they make a run, oh my goodness, fantastic, what a story. I don't think any of us expect them to make a run to the playoffs, especially making a run in the playoffs. I don't think many of us, if any of us, believe that's going to happen this year. The Patriots, this is a rebuild. They're in the middle of it. This is more about 2025 and 2026. So with that in mind, if you cannot hammer out a deal for Judon, then yes, I say you move on from him. I think you could get at least a third-round pick in next year's draft for Judon. You're not going to get a compensatory pick because you're going to have a lot of cap space. You're going to sign free agents next offseason. And you're looking at the possibility of playing Keion White at the edge, right? So if you move on from Judon, it gives you the full season to evaluate White's development and whether or not he can be an impact player full-time for you moving forward. And if White proves that, you've got White, you've got Gonzalez, you've got Christian Barmore as three young stud players that are going to impact your defense for years to come at three crucial positions: interior defensive line pass rush, edge pass rush, and of course an outside number one cornerback. So yes, if you are not going to sign Judon to a contract extension in the next month or so, I would be shopping him. And I would be looking for what I could get, as much as I love Judon, because you have to look towards the future with this situation. Let's get back to the spending. I just want to close the book on this. When you think that the Patriots, right, I want you all to think of this. The Patriots were 19th in offensive spending last year. They were 19th in offensive spending last year. Let's look at it this way. They were 19th in offensive spending a year ago with the context of having your quarterback, Mac Jones, on a rookie contract, right? A rookie scale contract. Your quarterback was not making a lot of money. We could look at the Cleveland Browns, for example. The $188 million, right, that they have allocated, their cap allocated to offense. I would just have to imagine that a ton of that money is Deshaun Watson because that crazy contract he signed a couple of years ago when he was traded to Cleveland. Usually, the money devoted to the offense, you can explain that with your quarterback money. But the fact that the Patriots were 19th in offensive spending with a quarterback on a rookie-scaled contract, that tells you how much money they did not spend offensively. You've got Mac, who's not making a lot of money. You should take the extra money and put it towards, I don't know, maybe a number one receiver, if that number one receiver is available. Or, I don't know, maybe you sign DeAndre Hopkins for what he wants because it would make the team better. Maybe you sign Jacoby Myers because he is a trusted receiver for your young quarterback. So when you look at it in context, the fact that you made those kinds of decisions with Hopkins and Myers, and you had a quarterback on a rookie-scaled contract, your offensive spending, when you look at those numbers, were lower in the league than a lot of other teams. Bill Belichick had every single solitary reason to put money into the offense last year, and he didn't. And he had guys available, and he didn't do it. He had guys he could retain. He had guys he could go out there and sign, and he didn't do it. And that's coming off of a terrible 2022. So the Patriots, they're starting to try to even the books out. They've spent more money on offense this offseason, contractually, than they spent on the defense, even though you might think it's been all defense because most of the players they brought in were defense. The overall money they've been putting towards the offense more so than the defense, and it began with Mike Owenu. So when we look at spending, that's something we have to look at. How much are they spending offensively? How much are they spending defensively? And don't forget, the Patriots, they put $40 million guaranteed on the table for Calvin Ridley. They wanted to bring him in. They were talking to the 49ers about Brandon Ayuk. You're not talking to the Niners about Ayuk unless you're willing to spend legitimate money at the wide receiver position. So they put more money towards the offense this offseason, and they wanted to put even more money towards the offense if a couple of things could have fallen their way. What about the defensive spending numbers? I know you're wondering about that, right? What about the defensive spending numbers? We'll get to that in a minute. First, don't forget to give us that thumbs up if you're watching on Twitter/X, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on the YouTube channel. Give us that thumbs up. Every thumb counts, especially on the YouTube channel. That's how we beat that algorithm. So don't forget to like, throw a comment into the YouTube channel as well as you watch. You can throw your comment in on Facebook and Twitter as well. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Every subscription means the world to me. Trying to get to 3,500 subscriptions. Try to get to that number right around training camp, which is a few weeks away. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Pods, on demand, you can rate and review. And you can also head on over to YouTube and click that thumbs up, even though we're not live when you listen. You can still help us out. All right, defensive spending. What do you think it looks like? I told you that offensive spending last year was 19th in the NFL. Last year, defensive spending, the Patriots were 5th. So is it really a shocker? 19th in offensive spending, and you had the worst offense in football. You were 5th in defensive spending last year, and you had a top 10 defense in DVOA. It correlates. It's a direct connection. What's the spending look like in 2024? Well, I told you the Patriots are 23rd in offensive spending this upcoming year. A lot of that has to do with drafting 6 of the 7 guys on the offensive side of the ball, lower contracts, all that stuff, not counting the Ramondre Stevenson, David Andrews contracts to this year's tally because they were already on the books. But when you look at the defensive spending this year, the Patriots are 10th. They're 10th in the NFL in defensive spending. So 23rd offensively, 10th defensively. And it just goes to show you again that the prior regime, they all knew that Belichick's wheelhouse was defense. Belichick spent top money on lots of defensive players throughout his time with the Patriots, right? He was willing to spend on Adalius Thomas. He was willing to spend on Roosevelt Colvin. He was willing to spend on Darrelle Revis. He was willing to spend on Stephon Gilmore. He was willing to spend on Matthew Judon. He was willing to spend top money, top of the market money on those types of players. But he never went out and signed top of the market free agents at wide receiver. Never did that, right? Tight end he did, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, because the tight end situation was abominable in New England at the time. They swung and missed in the draft. If they didn't swing and miss on Asiasi and Keene, the Henry Smith contracts never happened. So when you look at the spending, it means an awful lot. And I wonder a few things. With that all as the backdrop, with that all as the background, we now have the information, right? We have the information. We've been educated. What does this mean for 2025 when we slide it ahead? I think what it means is that we will see a draft next year that will be at least more balanced, if not leaning towards the defensive side of the football. Now, it all depends on whether or not they can acquire a wide receiver 1 or have to try to draft a wide receiver 1. It all depends on whether or not Chukwuekorfor works out at left tackle, and if the Patriots decide to pay Chukwuekorfor an extension and keep him at left tackle, because you might walk into next year's draft needing a left tackle and a wide receiver 1. So it's still a little bit TBD, right? But I would anticipate the Patriots looking defensively in next year's draft. And if you listen to some of the draft pundits, the defensive side of the ball is supposed to be very, very deep in next year's draft. So you look at the spending. The Patriots are slowly spending more money on the offense, a little less money on the defense. They have a lot of rookie-scaled contracts offensively this year after the draft. And I think what you'll see is next year, you'll see some of that turn. You'll see them turn to the defense in next year's draft. It'll almost be a complete flip. Now, you hope Chooks works out at left tackle and you don't have to devote 2 picks to 2 premium positions next year. I also wonder, because the draft is going to be so defensive heavy, Does that mean the Patriots will be more active on the offensive side of the ball, even more active than they were this offseason in free agency? Will they look towards free agency, or at least to try to trade for guys who are looking for big contracts on that side of the ball? Will they work with their money that they have? Will the cap space be devoted more to the offense next year and the draft devoted more to the defense next year? So you have that balancing of the payroll, right? You have more of a balance between offense and defense. And frankly, when you look at where the game is moving, you want more money in the offense. You want to put a lot of money into the offense, quarterback position, wide receiver position, especially. So, when you look at how all of these things fall into place, the roster construction, the cap space that they're going to have, I wonder, the guys who are not being extended right now, a la Matthew Judon, if you're not extending defensive players right now, then I find it unlikely that those guys will be here in 2025. So you can look at all the guys in the last year of their deal defensively, and you can ask the question, are those guys going to be here in 2025? Because you look at the spending, you look at the draft next year, you look at what they did this past draft, and it all kind of adds up that they're going to go a little bit younger defensively next year. So Jonathan Jones, hey, if Alex Austin can replace you, he's going to replace you. If Marcus Jones can replace you in the slot or at free safety, whatever, he's going to replace you. Matthew Judon, if Keon White can replace you at edge, you're going to be replaced. So you start to look at that and you wonder, a number of these guys, if they're not extended, Hunter throws in Jabril Peppers, another one. I want Peppers to be re-signed. I want Peppers to get an extension. But if Peppers doesn't get his extension, you look at Kyle Duggar. He just got his extension. What do they do at safety when you look at, next year's offseason? Do they draft a guy? Do they hold on to Joshua Bledsoe? Does he somehow make this roster? Does Jalen Hawkins work out? Marcus Jones, does Jones work out? So if those guys don't get deals, like Jelani Tavai got a deal last week. Patriots took care of him. They want him on the second level, right? They took care of Barmore. They gave Anthony Jennings a multi-year contract. You look at Joshua Uche, pass rush sub, he could be gone. Jonathan Jones could be gone. Judon could be gone. And if they don't get their extensions over the next month or two, I would expect those guys to be gone. And the Patriots will go into next offseason trying to replenish at some of those positions. And what helps you, by the way, with the spending and all of that, what helps you is if you have young blue chip players. Christian Gonzalez being a legitimate outside corner one on his rookie scaled contract, that's a great deal for the Patriots. If he can stay healthy, fantastic deal. Same thing with Keon White. If he proves himself to be a legitimate pass rusher, a legitimate 3-down edge this year, if he proves himself to be that capable, that is a gigantic break for the Patriots because it's a pivotal position and you're not spending a boatload of money. Barmore, you gave him his extension, but if he plays the way he played the last 2 months of last year, you have no problem giving him that money, which is why you did. All right, let's jump to a couple of super chats after the huddle. $5 super chat. Again, I don't know why they're showing up so huge. StreamYard, can we do something about this? What is going on? I don't know. Would you go eat dinner at a total stranger's house like your lady co-host on 98.5 this past weekend? Perfect plot for a horror movie. He's talking about Kendra Milton. No, there's no chance in hell. There's no chance in hell I would show up to a stranger's house in a strange land to eat a meal. No chance. I don't know them. I don't know what they put in that meal. I have no reason to trust them. So no shot in hell would I do that. After the huddle, jumps in here with another super chat. Did you see the AVP mic'd up video? He talked about a double screenplay. Thoughts? I actually did not catch that video. I've been all over the place the last few days. Had some friends from out of town visiting. Did a number of 98.5 shows, as you know. So I didn't get the video. Apologize for not catching it. But as far as double screenplay and all that, Look, AVP is going to throw trick plays at defenses. A lot of what this offense is misdirection. So be ready for a lot of misdirection within this offense. And I'm not just talking about play action bootlegs. I'm talking about some of these trick plays. They're going to try to catch teams off guard. I think this offense is going to be creative. And to a point, I think they have to be creative. So we'll see. Jeremy Underhill. Disagree. They spent a lot on Moss and Antonio, others which kicked off the downward turn. Well, Jeremy, first of all, they traded for Randy Moss, right? They gave him that extension. What I'm talking about is going outside and getting a free agent, a big named free agent. You traded for Moss, and you traded for Moss because his cost was low. You traded for Moss because you didn't have to trade a lot for him. He was pretty much done, right? He was pretty much done where he was. So you got him for pennies on the dollar trade-wise, and then, yeah, you extended him, but that's different. I'm talking about going out and being involved in a conversation with a top-notch wide receiver one. The Patriots were at the table with Calvin Ridley. He was the top available receiver in free agency. I don't think Belichick gets involved in those conversations. Now, as far as Antonio Brown, completely different scenario. He was not paid a ton of money, if you remember. He was out there on the street. The Patriots broke glass in case of an emergency because Tom Brady was pissed, and their offensive weapons were atrocious. And so they took a flyer on AB because they had no other choice. But the Patriots, under Bill Belichick, they never went out and signed a top-notch receiver. They never went into free agency and said, we're going to do this. They never made a big trade for a receiver, to my recollection, like you saw with Miami and Tyreek Hill. The deals they made, the Danny Amendola got paid some decent money, but again, that's slot receiver, not upper echelon top guy. And that's part of the reason why you're stuck where you are right now. Digital Whizzlers throwing a WTF. What the bleep are you talking about? Uche already took a deal for this year. My man, Digital Whizzlers, if you're going to make a comment, just make sure that you're listening to what I'm saying. What I said was guys that are in the last year of their deals could be gone next year. Yes, Joshua Uche signed a contract. How long was the contract for? 1 year. So he's on the books for this year. He's not on the books next year. So anybody who has 1 year left on their deal, including guys who signed 1 year deals this offseason, those guys could be gone next year. So I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening. But if you're going to throw a question at me, especially with that kind of tone, make sure you're listening a little bit better, my guy. I appreciate you. Let me stop everything in my tracks right here. Oh, my freaking goodness. Teresa Grant with a $100 super chat. This is a super chat. This is the largest super chat I've ever gotten from anybody. I can't say enough. Terry, you have been with us almost from day one, if not day one, pretty damn close to it. You have supported this show. You have supported it with the Patreon page. You have supported it on Facebook. You support it with super chats every once in a while. To say that this podcast is something that you felt the need to give $100 of your hard-earned money means the absolute world to me. I am knocked over by that. Congratulations on the new Patriot-centric podcast, along with the 98.5 hosting shifts. Looking forward to a productive season. Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you for that super chat. My goodness. Just knocked over by that. Gratitude. Thank you so much. 98.5 has been a lot of fun to get back on radio. Love radio. Longer time period. Can have some fun. All of that stuff. After the huddle jumps in with the super chat. If not Judon, who could be involved in a trade? Let's think. Not many guys in the last year of their deals, if we're talking about that. Trying to think who could be involved in a trade. Judon would obviously be the top dog. I don't think Jonathan Jones would get you too much because he's in his 30s. Good question. Off the top of my head, nobody comes up. But maybe some of you have some names. Digital Whizzlers is at it again. I got to stop pulling up these things. My goodness. Again, you were tripping. The year we took AB, we had a stacked wide receiver room. Digital. If the wide receiver room was stacked, why did you go out and sign Antonio Brown when nobody else wanted him to that deal? Why? I think you got some of your lines crossed up, my guy. They did not go out there and sign Antonio Brown because their wide receiver room was stacked. Josh Gordon, I believe you brought up. Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon. Demaryius Thomas. That would have been a stacked wide receiver room like 5-6 years prior to when the Patriots actually had those guys. Josh Gordon flamed out, never worked in the NFL again, could never figure it out. Antonio Brown was a complete waste of time, waste of money, lasted 1 week, supremely talented, no doubt knucklehead. The reason they went out and they signed Antonio Brown was because they were in a state of disaster in the wide receiver room. Belichick did not want to sign Antonio Brown. He signed Antonio Brown because Tom Brady pretty much made him sign Antonio Brown. Tom Brady took Antonio Brown into his house because he was so desperate to have a legitimate receiver on that football team. So at this point, I'd step away from the keyboard for a minute and take a deep breath and reassess the wide receiver room back then. That's what I would say. Just you don't have to try to jump back at me and prove something because I didn't agree with your point when you came at me in the first place. You can take the breath. It's not Twitter. You don't have to get right back with the busy fingers and type something that's even worse. Take a breath. Look at that wide receiver core in reality. And I think you will come to a different conclusion than that wide receiver room was stacked. But again, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you commenting. And hopefully you subscribe. All right, that'll do it on this Monday. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. I'm back on Wednesday at 11 a.m. I'm going to be in Newport with the wife on Wednesday. I plan on doing a live edition of the show. We'll see what happens tomorrow night in Newport. But that's the plan. But until then, until Wednesday at 11 a.m., thank you so much for joining me. It is much appreciated. And Terry, can't say enough again about that super chat. Where's Marilyn? As Marilyn T said, Teresa, whoop, whoop. And hopefully StreamYard can figure out the size of these super chats and chats because they're outrageous. Talk to you on Wednesday. Everybody be well.